All right, so the last thing on the previous video we did was to recreate the variable, a new variable for benefits where we added all the categories or the ranking together. We can do the same thing again for the barriers variable by going to, remember we're going to transform compute variable because we're using a new variable. And here you're going to change the name, give it the new name. Instead of benefits, it's now barriers. And here you have sum, and you've added all the barriers categories, right? So I've added this, I've added that, and I've added that. So now we're here, we click OK. And yes, because I already did that, that variable has been created. And if we go to our variable view, we'll see those two variables here. And if we ran the descriptives on that, we see this is the benefits variable and the range from 3 to 10, and then the barriers variable ranges from 3 to 12. So what we have done is we've taken all the rankings for each of the categories for each person that responded and added them up. And so it gives us a very good measure of the strength of the barriers and benefits as they deemed it. Of course, this is very subjective, but that's what we're trying to assess. So now that we have those two barriers, these two new variables, which we're going to treat as quantitative variables, we need to have some factors to assess them with. And we have our variables, but again, because they are all, have a lot of more categories than we need. What we're going to do is to reduce the categories. So if the variables have 3 or 4 categories, we're essentially going to change that and make them into 2. So that way we can do, a simple t-test, or if it's 3, we can do an ANOVA and see if there's any kind of statistical significance at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to transform the variable, the zip code variable, from one with 3 categories into one with just 2 categories. And to do that, we want to go to transform, recode into different variables. You always want to do recode into different variables because you don't want to change your original variables in case you need to go back to it, you've made some mistake, or you might need to want to change it into a different format than the one you've created. So you always want to save your original variable. So we go with residence zip code, we move that in here, we give it some new zip code name. And what I like to do is go say zip code recode, right? And that you can add labels and all that here, or you can do it afterwards. And make sure you change. So then when you go here now, it's going to allow you to make the changes that we want. And you have to know what the categories are that you're changing. So let me show you what that looks like before we do this. So if we go to the zip code variable, right, we'll see that there are 3 categories right now. So this is what the zip code variable is. We have rural, suburban, urban. And what we're going to do is to change that into 2 categories, just rural and an urban category. So we go back to our transform, compute into different variable, transform, recode into different variable, right? And we find our zip code variable here, and we move that here, and we give it the new name, and so now once we've done that, we can see what those categories are, right? So the first one is the rural, and that's going to be our first category. But now we want to combine suburban and urban. So here we go to range, and we're going to add 2 and 3, and that's going to become our 2. And then everything else we're going to consider as system